later the recording for sure. So now it's recording.
All right, beautiful. No, just because we wanted to upload it to our YouTube channel as well, so that would be perfect. That way we can get some extra visibility for you. But how are you going, Aleyda? I know it's been a while since you're in Australia, since we had that dinner in Melbourne with the SEO group at the Italian restaurant. Remember that?
Yes, yes. I remember it indeed. Yes, it was in 2000, potentially 18 or
Yeah,
so,
it was
something like that. Yes, yes. So, but
it
well,
was
like I wish to be able to be back soon. So hopefully it was really nice to meet you there. But I think that we had actually met before, isn't it? At the event in Sydney, potentially 2 years before that, or
Yeah,
something like that.
long time ago. I remember many years ago. There's some events in Sydney. Been in the industry for a long time, but it's always good to see your presentations and hear what you're up to. But do you want to give a rundown to the team who you are? I think a lot of people know who you are, but some people maybe just give them a little bit more information, like what you're up to currently. Because I know you do a lot of stuff. I know you do like consulting, but then you also do a whole bunch of other stuff too. I see you got like a website that you're affiliated with, and you got your email list, and then a whole bunch of stuff.
Yes, well, I am an SEO consultant. I have an SEO consultancy that is called Oranti. And I primarily work with established brands that have their own in-house SEO teams that are looking for external support to tackle specific SEO challenges. So it's very boutique oriented. I work with a handful of clients at a time. And then on the other hand, I have SEO FOMO, which is my SEO weekly SEO newsletter featuring the latest SEO guides, news, resources, jobs, etc. And then I also have Crawling Mondays, what is my YouTube channel / podcast now too. And then I also co-founded remoters.net, which is a remote work hub resource / job board that is also premium. So yeah, we provide the like an easy path for companies to start hiring remotely too. And yes, I created learning SEO.io also to facilitate people who wanted to start learning SEO for free with free resources too. Yes, I'm very active over Twitter too. I really love to share what I have learned and what I continuously continue to learn in SEO. I do also speaking. I like to share in different formats, right? So very looking forward to share with you today.
Nice one. No, thank you. What's the SEO scene like there in Barcelona? I know there's a and Spain. I know there's a big conference coming up. I've seen some people sharing it. The search something in Barcelona. I've seen a few people sharing it. But what's the SEO scene like there in Spain? Because I was recently there, but yeah, just curious. Is it big or growing? More people getting involved, or what's
It
happening?
it is indeed big. I remember when I started doing SEO in 2007. I like the first events, conferences, meetups I went were here in Madrid. I used to live at that time, and I was based in Salamanca, which is a student's town where I was actually studying. And I started working at an online marketing agency there. So I was going to Madrid, which is like 2 hours away from there, to conferences, to event later on, also in Valencia and in Barcelona. Like there is like a little bit like, let's say, um, old school established SEO community that started back in that day or even before then, when I was already starting. There was already a community of people already doing SEO that I also had the chance to learn. That continues to be doing SEO, that have their own agencies, that have other people have grown, let's say, to other type of more broader type of marketing roles or product roles, but they continue to be connected with an understanding of SEO too. I actually was at an event last week in Madrid, the e-show, which is a large, let's say, marketing tech oriented conference, and had a online marketing component, and there is this clinic SEO conference happening there. So there is a very strong community, and there's also like a new wave of SEOs that have learned SEO with SEO courses that are organized locally. So I had the chance to teach at SEO masters here that like CAS. There is a school here that is called CAS School. They organize SEOs and online marketing masters since, I don't know, potentially 8 years, 9 years ago or so. And many of the SEO community here has been involved, and then other now new schools, courses that are providing SEO learning too. In any case, there is like a big, let's say, community, one more established, then another one more up and coming, and yes, there are local events, etc. The one thing is that it's all in Spanish, right? Like most of the locally oriented conferences, I know that there are like international, that like the one that you mentioned is the International Search Summit that is happening in a couple of weeks' time in Barcelona. That is English speaking, and yes, it's locally based, let's say, but it's oriented to the community as a whole in general, also very European focused. But there are like events here in Spain happening in Spanish, more focused to the local community. And that is the one thing, right, that I have always mentioned, and I am always pushing to SEO colleagues here in Spain, because there are some very let's say knowledgeable, really amazing SEOs here that unfortunately still only share in Spanish, right? I am always pushing them, like, you should publish in English, you should share in English. If you were publishing or tweeting this in English, I assure you that you will get a lot of more visibility and reach. But yes, like that is a problem, I believe, that across a few European countries, or challenge, let's say. For example, if the French community, also a lot of them primarily share in French. The Italian community primarily share in Italian. The German, yes, they are a little bit of more open and share more in English, but a good share is also German oriented. So these are SEOs that you will tend to not see that much internationally in the US or in Australia, for example. But if you're willing to translate a few articles, and to go through Google Translate or DeepL these articles, you will see that there's a ton of knowledge that is shared in the local languages, indeed.
Yeah, what's the Spanish search results like over there? Like in Spain, is like the algorithm like a little bit outdated compared to English algorithm? I know, like, you see a lot of people talk about that, how like the English algorithm in Google is like a bit more sophisticated, and like they're a bit more picky, you know, and then like the other algorithms for like other non-English languages can like different rules can apply. Have you dealt much with that, or you mainly do with like the English speaking markets?
No, I work with clients that are based in the US, but they also not only focus on the US, but also across many different language speaking markets in Europe, and also Latin America and the world in general. But yes, you can definitely see that. I think that there are a few components here. Like on one hand, the English speaking line, like English as let's say the core language or initial language, where you will see that a lot of the releases, Google will say, right, when they announce something, and this release will be initially available in English, or this release will be primarily initially, or this new feature or this new search feature or new filter or new update will be first targeted to English-speaking audiences, or to the US first. So that tends to happen a lot. So of course, like that means that especially the US, English-speaking, and the US will be the market that will see a lot of new features first, and will tend to be more sophisticated, not only because of that, also because of, let's say, the competition that there is there. I think is, if you think about it, is very reasonable that
Mm.
Google will have the capacity, let's say, to be more picky with the results that they show if there is a wealth of websites competing to rank for the first positions in certain markets like the US, or even here in Europe, even in other languages in the UK, or in Germany, right? Less so if you imagine if you are trying to rank pages that are relevant for a certain query in a very small market. The smaller the market there is, let's say, like there won't be as much competition, and the less picky Google will be able to be to filter out the bad results, to show only those that have a certain type of standards. In Latin America, not necessarily so much in Spain, right? But in Latin America, there are countries that are very, very small. Like, for example, I am originally from Nicaragua, and in my country is like literally like 6 million people. So you imagine the number of websites that are published originally there, based there, targeted to the audience only there. So Google won't have the capacity. If they apply the same rules or the same type of filter that they apply to the US, there wouldn't be many websites left to rank for certain queries, right? Realistically. So I mean, it's part like the reason is also because of the type of ecosystem that exists in each market that they are able to rank, right? And they need to play with that. And if you think about it, it's only reasonable, right? That they need to, let's say, like level up or down depending on the ecosystem of each country, of the reality of each countries, right? And the same is true, not even going to the extreme, like very small countries, but if you go to even bigger countries in Latin America, in South America, like big countries like Brazil in Portuguese, or Argentina in Spanish, or Mexico in Spanish, it's like big markets, right? But still, you still see for some queries, for example, in Mexico, that the websites target to Spain ranking there, because really Google identified that was a better match, even if it was not targeted to the Mexican audience, than many other Mexican websites, because the lack of, sometimes like maturity, quality, authority of websites there, whether qualitative, good enough information that they will assess to be relevant for them. And you see a few Spanish targeted websites to Spain there rank. You might see this from time to time also in Australia, like websites that were primarily targeted to the US, but they are relevant and authoritative enough and generic enough to be also relevant to show in Australia, although less so, because the Australian market potentially is more developed or wealthy to have their own targeted websites. But yes, you can see this to have a role and play across certain markets indeed.
Yeah, sometimes you see like UK websites ranking in Australian search results, which can be a bit random, but like, I don't know. You're right. Like usually if it's an authoritative site, it can rank across multiple markets. But back to your point about like international SEO, I know like a lot of projects we work on, people are starting to implement like hreflang and get involved with international SEO. Like, what are the biggest issues that you have commonly seen with hreflang implementation? You know, like say someone's got 20 websites in 20 different countries as an example. What are some common issues that you have seen? Because I presume you'd be doing a bit of this type of work, right?
Yes. I do a lot of technical SEO audits, including the international validation and configuration, and the overall strategy, right? Also including the content, etc. So yes, hreflang annotations will be one of those configurations that will be assessed. In general, I would say that the biggest challenge/issue that I see happening with hreflang implementation is, in the first place, that many websites or business owners or marketers, they think that by using hreflang, they will be automatically geolocated. And that is the one single configuration to geolocate a website, right? And they overlook all of the rest of the signals, right? Rather than caring about aligning all of the signals to give consistent signals to Google, for Google to understand that they are targeting certain markets, right? And then because of this also, they obsess about including hreflang tags to every single URL of their site when it's actually not necessary. So a lot of the problems, the issues, the errors that are triggered out of hreflang annotations is because of that, because they want to include hreflang to every product page in an e-commerce, for example, when many times it doesn't really make sense, because that product is only available in one market. That product is changing the status the whole time because of the dynamic, how dynamic the inventory it is. That product doesn't have let's say alignment issues in the SERPs. The product page is actually targeting the UK and only ranking in the UK and not ranking in other markets where the product is also available in other pages. So like, I think that is important, and this is something that I actually do with clients. Like, let's prioritize and let's focus on which are the pages that actually have internationally overlaying issues. What are those pages that you are that are US focused, that are ranking in the UK or in Australia or in other markets where they shouldn't, and where you actually have an alternate that should rank for those markets. So let's start focusing on those that have an actual problem to solve, low-hanging fruit here, and let's maximize the impact of our job. So rather than like have this very complex hreflang implementation right from the beginning, trying to implement it in every single page of the website, let's focus on those group of pages that have an actual problem in international ranking, and let's implement hreflang annotations only in those pairs or in those groups of pages where the issue is happening. So for example, you mentioned if you have a UK page that has an Australian alternate, and the issue is that Australian page is not ranking in Australia, but it's the UK one, let's implement hreflang annotations between these two, rather than trying to also specify the alternates that might exist for the US, for Spanish in Spain, for German in Germany, and to all of the pairing of all of the alternates, right? That will generate an additional non-trivial amount of work, right? So let's first focus on those having actual international ranking issues. Once that is solved, great. Let's see, where do you want to cover your back to avoid this from happening? Usually, this type of issues happens when you have a very powerful, very popular, authoritative version that is very likely your initial website version that has all the backlinks and a lot of very high, well-established popularity signals, and then you start targeting new markets, in most cases in the same languages, right? Like hreflang annotations, there's a less of a need, and usually there are less international targeting issues when you have different languages. Like, I mean, Google will recognize a language, and they will they will be less likely to rank a German page in Spain because it's not in Spanish, right? It's in German. It doesn't match the query that is searched by the user. It's usually when you have pages in the same languages targeting to different countries. So let's focus in this type of markets or scenarios and start tagging those where there is a higher risk, because you have a very powerful initial market and then new markets where you are starting. And let's focus on those pages where you have actually indexable alternates across all of the markets, or most of the markets, that will tend to overlay and are very risky for you for that to happen. So main homepage, main category pages, subcategory pages, but static pages rather than, let's say, dynamic product pages in an e-commerce that will be changing the status of the time. Because again, if you do it in those pages, you will be seeing and triggering errors all the time, because these pages will be redirecting, canonicalizing to others, no indexing, even showing errors. And most of the issues that you will tend to see when you validate hreflang are, oh, there is a no-return tag for this hreflang. And this happens because this page, whether it didn't exist that, or was redirected, or was not indexable, etc., etc. Right? So you want to minimize these cases. So I will highly recommend to keep it simple. Is to start with those pages that actually have an international targeting ranking traffic issue in the first place, and then later on move on those that, as I mentioned, had a higher risk but were static and very meaningful pages, rather than trying to implement a soft land in every single URL. And then of
Yeah,
course
that
work on the other signals too. Sorry, like for example, it's crazy, but again, the focus on extra lang, but then you can see that there's a very low hanging fruit that these same websites could do to help Google, or to signal Google to the right version of the country version. So for example, adding the country in the metadata, the country address and phone numbers in the pages copy, um, using the actual local language, localization, rather than just generic translation, backlinks from local sites, connected business profile in that country, right? So there's a lot of more things, many more things that you can do, rather than use an extra lang that will also send the right signals for Google.
Yeah, that's so true. I think even like the local number, I think I saw someone do like a test where they tested a lot of like Google My Business listings, and they had like a local area code number, and they tested it with like 1-300 numbers, and they switched to like a local number on a lot of listings, and they saw like a CTR increase. Just that was through like a mass GMB test like someone did for like getting a lot of lead gen calls, because customers knew that that was like a local number in Australia, because like in Australia every different state has a different area code. Like Sydney's like O2, and then Queensland's like O7, and Melbourne something else. So people in those regions know when a local business is using like a local number, whereas if it's someone like overseas trying to pretend they're in Australia,
Mhm.
there's a lot of that type of stuff. So no, little tactics like that can definitely have a massive positive gain. But I think you're right in the sense that like a lot of hreflang projects, people just think like site wide, when you're right, they should be looking to clean up the site first, like look for like the indexation issues where you have like foreign content ranking in a different market, because that can be really bad for like conversion. Like if users are searching for you and they find like the UK product in Australia, and then you're going to lose a lot of business very quickly. So it's very
Yeah,
true.
getting it, like it's beyond SEO, right? Because at the end of the day, it has an important impact from a conversion standpoint, and you're correct. And you
Mm,
can also see a lot of businesses trying to, let's say, try to fix that or avoid that from happening. But again, in another extreme way, I will say, which is automatically redirecting the users and also bots using the IP to the what they identify to be the relevant version of for those users. But the problem with this is that they can cause not only a crawlability issue or crawlability problem, because of course Google doesn't still today doesn't crawl from every single country in the world. So let's imagine that they are not crawling from an Australian IP yet. If you end up redirecting because of the perceived IP locale, you will end up redirecting every time to the US version of the website, and the Google bot will never be able to enter to the Australian version. Then, on the other hand, from a user standpoint, if you implement this all the time, you might be assuming too much. This might be someone who's traveling, but they want to genuinely want to enter to another version of your site, even if they are located in another country, right? So the best way to handle this that I always recommend is to show a little banner, non-intrusive banner, not a pop-up that covers the whole screen, of course, but something that is not intrusive, warning the user, hey, we are identifying that you are accessing our Australian website, but we see that you are likely in the UK. We also have a UK version in case you want to move over there or want to go over there and keep buying our products over there. And then the user will be invited to go. And if they choose to go or if they choose to stay, that value will be stored in cookies. So next time that the user comes, they will be automatically redirected to the relevant version, but this will be a personalized redirect or referral rather than a generic one to the Google bot will see, right? So there are many ways to handle this in a, let's say, from a good experience standpoint, also something that is also good for the UX.
Yeah, I agree. That's another common issue that we've come across in the past. I mean, that can be a big issue too from indexation point of view. But just to change it up a bit, like I know you've got a very successful email list. Like, what's your tips for growing an email list? Because I know that's something that a lot of SEO people and affiliate marketers and even brands, they really struggle to grow their email list. You know, an email list is so important to be like an evergreen channel or something that you can constantly promote stuff to and get the word out about products. So what's your tips around like growing your email list? Because I know you've done a fantastic job over the years of promoting that. Like what are your thoughts on that, Aleyda?
Yeah, so I think that the first thing is to try to solve a real problem for your audience, right? It seems very obvious, and this is something that, well, with every business, right, or every service, but it's very, very true because I actually had tried to initially start an email list, but I actually didn't put that much of an effort, but I tried to, like back in the day in 2015 or so, I had like an email list called like Aleyda SEO tips or whatever. But of course, like I was not consistent on sending it, which is something that you should. And also I was like, oh, SEO tips, that is very broad. What type of SEO tips? Are these my own tips? Are tips that I aggregate? Like I lack a unique selling proposition, right? Which is what I think that I was able to do well with SEO FOMO. So I envision, okay, what is the one thing that we are always like suffering in SEO is FOMO, right? Because there is always a new update, a new guide, a new way, a new tactic to solve something, a new release from Google, and we are always in these fears of we are missing something out, right? And we need to keep updated in order to better advise to our clients. So I say, okay, news type of newsletter that is sent every week, so not too often and not too like spread out in time. Every week that solves this issue, and we can read in a single place like the latest, most important happenings, and so you keep updated in your particular area of interest. So that is a first thing that is important. Then the other thing that I think that there are two components of what I did that in order to make it grow. On one hand, I think that the value and the quality of everything is high. If I had started to add whatever news, whatever article I saw in the sector, I mean, it will have too much of noise, and people will say, okay, it's not worthy to be registered here or subscribe here because I am like, if you had an SEO alert in Google Alerts to receive everything in SEO, you will end up getting the same, or in Twitter. So that there needs to be an actual curation process there and filter process to only actually pick what is meaningful to keep the quality high on one hand. Also, even in alerts, I don't know if you have seen, but I receive at this point a lot of emails asking for sponsorships and adverts inclusion, and I always try to keep the adverts up to 3 per edition, not more. And these adverts should be of products or services that I will be happy to buy myself, or I already have, and I am a user already, and I know the quality is high, the value is high. And then on the other hand, I always ask the advertisers to provide an offer, something meaningful, something, a discount or something special to the audience. So the audience always feels that even if it is an advert, they are getting something that is worthy, something special because of being subscribed to the newsletter. And then on the other hand, I have, for example, done a little bit of community type of actions there. So for example, giveaways, I have done giveaways to increase let's say the subscription base, because the giveaways to participate have been pretty much to refer other people with the referral system. Also, the referral system itself with rewards have also helped to increase the newsletter subscribers too. Also, I have done cross referrals with other newsletters too, from time to time. That has also helped. And let's say, like, the whole way that of spreading the word after the newsletter is sent. I publish in Twitter. I tag the people that has had an inclusion in the newsletter. So whenever they are included, they will say, "Yeah, I have been included in the newsletter," and they will share it with their audience too. So there's this network effect going on too. So I believe that is the mix of all of the things that have allowed the newsletter to grow.
Nice one. I think it's grown. It's probably one of the most popular SEO newsletters in the world now. I know there's not many, but yours is definitely up there. But yeah, I'll let it open to everyone now to ask some questions, Aleyda, like whatever anyone has, because I know the team is excited to ask you some questions about SEO and everything that you're up to. So yeah.
Yes, please feel free.
I had a question about hreflang, but I think you kind of already answered it. So I will ask another question. Have you had to deal with kind of showing the value of a more like technical part of SEO, like the client like ask for value, like the value of updating a sitemap, for example? Do you have experience with that, or any tips on how to show the value, the technical changes?
Yes. So I think that what it is important is that first you ensure that what you're recommending is tied or connected to a goal that you're trying to achieve. So for example, with hreflang annotations, you're trying to increase the organic search traffic, rankings and conversions in a particular market, right? And then if you are able to show that implementing that action will have a connection or will have an impact to that goal, yes, that will definitely allow you to gain support. The best way to do this will be, and this I think that in general is what is hard in SEO, that to tie a particular action to a single outcome, because usually is an alignment of many little actions that will have the impact on the outcome, right? But what it is important is to be able to show the examples. So even if it is something highly technical, the client, even if it is non-technical, the stakeholder can see that it will have an impact, or that there's a high correlation of other players already doing that and achieving those goals. So what I like to do is to say, look, we have an example. This category page that doesn't have a hreflang, take a look at whenever someone searches, and whenever we see the rankings for the relevant query where this category page should be shown in Australia. Take a look; it is the UK page showing up there. So because of this, and you go and take a screenshot of the SERPs. So take the user, the non-technical users, to see the outcome, the bad outcome, the problem that it generates, right? And if we add the hreflang there, and we do all of these other extra international configuration, the page that will be able to be shown there will be the Australian one, and the traffic that you will be able to get will be to the Australian page. And what you can do is to show how much of a traffic this UK page is getting, and how much will be the impact if the Australian page will be able to get this traffic instead, and get those improvements and gains and conversions to the Australian market. I try to do the same in general, right? And even with competitors, right? So for example, take a look at these competitors have already this type of structured data implementation. Take a look how they look in the SERPs and how big they look. It's not only that they are ranking you, they might be not outranking you, but being shown below you. Take a look at, they are taking half as much space as you are in the search result share of voice, right, or share of visibility. And it is because they have implemented this FAQ page markup that you are not. And try to match that. And if you have done already this work in another website, You can anonymize some data and you can show the improvement. We have done this in the past in other type of pages, and we have seen that after implementing this change or alignment of changes or group of changes, the traffic has gone from here to there. Or take a look at the number of the amount of traffic that these competitors is able to get by being in the first position for this query. SEMrush can give you the traffic for a website, even external, right? Website, competitor website, or you can go to your Google Analytics and take a look at this category page or product page where we are already doing this well, and take a look at the traffic that the position for this page is already getting. So you can show within your own website or in comparison with other websites that are already doing that particular configuration that you want to implement well, and show the value that is getting them in terms of traffic, and how much that traffic will cost by doing paid search. Also something that you can get in SEMrush. So yes, take a look. If we were able to improve the content, the relevance, make it more comprehensive, add those FAQs, add those descriptions, improve add the structured data, add hreflang, so it ranks in the right market too, we will be able to get that much of a traffic that this page of our competitor right now is getting with this particular page that is ranking the queries and positions that we want in that market. And it is an example, I don't know, 10K in traffic that will cost 1K in adverts. And that is at one particular page. When you implement this improvement at scale, this is what you can expect and how much you can expect. If you get a lot of, let's say, challenges to implement this at scale, what you can ask is, okay, if this is too much of a work, and at the end of it, it's about cost effectiveness, right? That the implementation will cost or will be too complex, and then the uncertainty of the outcome, right? That it will be worthy. So ask them to run a test. There are many frameworks or tools that allow us to test things. So for SEOtesting.com, they allow us to easily do A/B tests, SEO A/B tests. So you say, okay, give me the capacity to implement this, or to do these implementations or executions in this particular group of pages or this category, and then I will be able to show the value in the next 3 months, the next 4 months, comparing with the other categories that have very similar performance at the moment, where you haven't been able to implement this. And once that you show the value, of course, it requires a little bit of more patience here, but once that you show the value, you will be able to get the approval for the rest of the categories, for the rest of the product pages and so on, right? But there are a few pages, like my favorite one is showing how the competitor is already doing it. And because it is already doing it as part of other improvements, this is how much they are getting in traffic. This is how much this traffic will cost. And this is based on their conversion rate, how much of what they will expect in conversion value if they were getting this traffic for this particular type of page.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Coming off that, I had like another question about like for reporting and like whatever you found to be most successful, like when speaking to like different groups, you know, like what KPIs, what format, anything like that.
Yes, I actually have done a few presentations lately about this particular topic. This year I started because I know that this is, let's say, a topic that is not very necessarily our favorite topic in the world, or a very sexy topic to speak about. And allow me to actually share with you the latest deck that I have about it, because I created a few resources that can be useful. Allow me to share the link over here so you have it. So I believe that the issue that we have with reporting is that we over rely on dashboards. These are two things, right? I think that we should separate SEO reporting and SEO monitoring. One thing is the monitoring that we want to to have as experts, as specialists. We want to track everything, every single metric that has a connection with our work, from crawlability, indexability, rankings, traffic, what conversions, whatever, in a single dashboard. And we might use, I don't know, tools like SEMrush, or even configure really nice dashboards in Google Data Studio that are personalized for us, which is great. However, if we send these dashboards or screenshots and that's it to the client, that many times is not technical, or even if they are technical, even if you work with in-house SEO teams, if you're talking with the SEO directors, they just want to see the output or the outcome, not every single detail, because it adds noise. And there's very little time in what they care about, if you have been able to achieve or not the goal, and that you communicate if you are in a good track to achieve the goal, that all is going at good pace. Let's continue like this. We are going in the right path. Continue giving me the resources that you are already giving me, or not. We are not going in a good path. We are not achieving the results, but that you explain why. We haven't been able to achieve the expected rankings and traffic and conversions with these sections or these areas because we didn't release on time. The releases of the changes were not implemented on time. That structured data work wasn't implemented. The redirects had issues. The redirects were 302s, not 301, things like that, right? So you are able to communicate what is happening, the why, and what should happen to solve it, to actually achieve those goals that you expect to achieve at the end of the day, or at the end of the timing, right, of the year, where you wanted to achieve a 200% growth year over year or something like that. So you're able to say, okay, we are being held back by this canonicalization issue that wasn't solved 3 months ago as it was expected. There's this issue still going on because there is a bug in the CMS. It is pretty fundamental that you solve this bug, and we are more than willing to have calls with the development team to help troubleshoot it and solve it, because if we don't solve it in the next month, we won't be able to achieve the results that we had set for the end of the year, because this is not allowing us to independently index all of these pages that we need, these facet pages that need to be self-canonicalized to rank, in order to rank for this very well working queries, right? So it is important that you are able to word it like this. With storytelling helps a lot, but this is important that you implement it in a way that is personalized per client, per audience, right? So like you will see in the deck that I share with you here that I like to do a deck, a little presentation, Google Slides, so I can share a link with the client and they can go through it, and using like the storytelling format, where where we are based on our goals, like the setup, like descriptive KPI progress, summarizing where we are. Like, yeah, we have December branded traffic share reached 28%, but still far short from the 30% goal. Then to explain the why, the reason, right, the conflict, why is this happening, for good or for bad, and then the resolution, how to achieve the expected goal. So I think that we are very scared and too afraid many times to tell the client that what we had specified as a goal is not being achieved so far. But it's important that we have the confidence to say it, because if we hide it, well, that wouldn't look good. And at the end of the process, there will be a lack of trust, understandably. And then on the other hand, we need to be able to communicate what is happening or not to get more support and to achieve what we had said, right? So reporting is a communication tool for me. It's a communication platform. We should track our KPIs based on what we had established as a goal. You will see also in the deck that I just shared how I connect the pretty much the KPIs to answer the questions about what is the goal's progress, to what the CEO actually care about, or the head of SEO actually care about. So yeah, what is the SEO process ROI year over year so far? What are the rankings of these core queries that are highly commercial that the client actually cares about? Things like that. And then on the other hand, that we communicate this in a way that actually is meaningful for them, but also for us, to get the support that we need, right? If things, especially if things are not going well, that is fundamental.
Thanks for that. That was a very thorough explanation. I was looking through your slides as well. I like that you've used like the 3-act structure to like for reporting to make it like, yeah, like data storytelling. Interesting.
Yes, I truly believe that. I think that storytelling can be a very powerful tool for everything, even also for recommendations, right? Explaining the why. We like to recommend, we know that we shouldn't be sending just SEO checklists and that's it, that are non-prioritized, that are generic, that are not really connected with goals. But what is also important is that whenever we send SEO recommendations to the stakeholders, even if they are technical or not, we are able to explain the why is this important. We need to include the main term for each page in the title tag. We know why is this important, but they don't, and they truly should see the why. The why is this is critical not only for SEO but also to achieve their own goal. In order to make the page, the first look of the page in the search result descriptive, to connect with the audience can see that this is what they are actually looking for, and click on this page to be able to achieve the goal of the page, that is to communicate or to sell, to convert that audience, right? So every single recommendation that we do, I truly believe that can leverage storytelling, showing like the issue, the challenge, the problem, how to solve it, which is our recommendation, and then the why is this important for the particular context of the client, how it will allow the client to solve their issues and achieve ultimately their business goals too.
So like for would you use that 3-act structure for like each like insight, yes, or each target or KPI?
Indeed. So I have already, I am sharing you another deck that I am where I presented about in general how to make SEO audits that matter and get it implemented for SEO success. So you can see there, I think it's the slide 64, where I share like for every recommendations, like what is it about, where it has it been found, why is it important, how it should be ideally, and show examples of competitors. Showing examples of competitors, I believe, is truly powerful for them to see that other people is already doing it well, so they shouldn't come up with excuses. I mean, it's feasible, it's possible. And then, of course, who do you expect that is implemented, and when it should be done, ideally, based on how critical it is. So yes, as you can see, storytelling can be or should be a powerful thing to do in every single activity. There's also a template that I share for SEO recommendations there too. And yes, as you can see in the reporting, is the exact same thing, right? Like setup, conflict, and resolution. This is how is it going right now. This is why, for good or for bad, conflict, especially in case things are not going well. And this is how we are going to resolve it to achieve the goal for every KPI. Indeed. So yes, you will see that there is a template actually in page 71 of the SEO reporting success. What I do is to have an executive summary at the beginning, so explaining like the outcome and the why of each KPI in the executive summary in a single page, so it's easy to quickly see it by the CMO if they want, right? If they don't have time, but then as explaining this in a specific page, in a single page for each KPI indeed. So potentially you will end up having a reporting of 8 pages, right? Or 6 pages, depending on how many KPIs and goals you have. And then of course, if they want to see more, you can link to your dashboards. If the stakeholder is a technical stakeholder and they want to go through the data, they don't trust your data, they want to go through it. You link to your SEO dashboard. They can go and take a look at your Google Studio or whatever you have your information, right? But what you have informed them, what you have shared with them is personalized. It communicates what you actually want to communicate, and it is clear where you stand on the goals, and the type of support you need, and the type of feedback or input from their part that you need.
Sounds really good. I also saw, like, on that second deck you shared, there was something about SEO forecasting. How do you usually like to tackle this? And I saw that you mentioned something about doing different scenarios for different goals.
Yes, so there are tools that highly facilitate this now. So for example, I use a Google Sheet add-on that is called Forecast Forge on one hand, and then there is also this functionality now available at Advanced Web Ranking, which is the rank tracker that I use, that allows you to create different scenarios for your group of targeted queries, right? Saying, okay, so what if I rank in the top 3 positions in 12 months? What if I rank in the top 5 instead, or in the top 10? And they will apply the click-through rate, the click-through curve that you want. You can personalize it, or the one that they see from your Google Search Console data, or the one that they see from the aggregated data that they have across all of their clients in that particular industry, right? You can choose. And then what I like about it is that you can say, okay, best scenario, if we are able to implement all of these 5 changes that we want in the next 3 months, then we can expect this growth at the end of the year, ranking in the top 3 positions, or the top 5 positions, very aggressive for this group of queries. But what will happen if only half of this are implemented and you are not able to rank in the top 5? Okay, you get to the top 10, not so aggressively, because you haven't been able to implement it all, so you can expect this instead. What you can do though in order to achieve the overall traffic and conversion goals, okay, if we are able only to implement 3 of half of the changes and be in the top 10, then we will need to do a little bit more with another area, maybe to create informational content, maybe to launch more blogs, whatever. So let's see if we can, like, potentially your goal is from an overall traffic, conversions, revenue perspective. There are different ways to match and fulfill that need, right? Like by doing this exchanges in these categories or subcategories or group of pages, or this or the change here. So you can show different scenarios and combinations of this is what is expected if you do this, this is what is expected if you do that, in different ways, right? Like, of course, it is important that we set the right expectations, that at the end of the day, a lot of things can happen. It's not only us, but also our competitors doing changes. Maybe they cannot pace us. So even more can be needed from our side. Maybe there's a Google update or a new feature that will take out visibility from our results, and more changes from our part will be needed. But that is why you have a frequent, let's say, follow-up with the clients, informing them accordingly, right? And so it's important to set the expectation that this is a forecast at the end of the day of what is expected, but it can change because SEO is like this, and that is why it's important that they hire specialists like you, doing an ongoing type of work that you can, by validating, identifying opportunities or changes in the market, so you can recommend accordingly.
Have you ever like kind of weighted the different factors in the forecasting that could impact the growth, or like this, core Web vitals is only 6%, but this is like 20% or something like that?
That is a little bit of more difficult to do, because at the end of the day, it doesn't rely on you. But what I tend to do 100% is to, at the end of the day, weight it all versus my better ranking competitors for those queries, right? I always do a benchmark in whatever recommendations that I do, especially for core Web vitals. Remember when it was announced a couple of years ago of, oh, this new ranking factor, everybody went crazy and wanted to have perfect core Web vitals. I want to have perfect core Web vitals for all of my pages and clients, of course. But realistically, there was already a good queue number of tasks for most of the projects. So what I did back then, and I continue to do in every single initial audit and recommendations that I do, is to say, okay, what is the expected weight of this on the type of outcome that I will have for the rankings that matter to me. So what I do is to take a look at the cover vitals of those pages that are ranking me for the queries that do matter for me, and take a look at how the page of my clients are optimized versus them. In many cases, I will see that those category pages or product pages have actually the same cover vitals than my competitors, or even a bit better, even if other pages are worse, right? But those in particular are a bit better. So you need to balance it out and see what is the gap versus those particular players that you are competing against in particular, and see if it is worthy for you to take the opportunity to improve it or to not, to continue prioritizing those other more critical even issues that are, let's say, holding you back. I believe that this is a little bit of like the challenge in SEO. Like we have, and I have created, I don't know if you have seen like this graph that is a pyramid, right? Like the base is a lot of fixing, is getting rid of technical debt, a lot of callability and indexability issues. The problem is that many times in SEO, we don't get past this phase. But unfortunately, if you fix a lot of this crawlability and indexability, it's not that you will rank massively better for very competitive queries, but it can be what holds you back from ranking. So you need to fix it as soon as possible to be able to have a good base to start optimizing and building, which is how you will get to the next phase, how you will be able to actually rank better, by creating more content, better content, improving your content, connecting better with the search intent of the user, building something new categories, subcategories, guides that better connect with the search need of the audience and ranks for them, right? So again, unfortunately, I hear you regarding, especially at the initial phase of the SEO process, where you need to do a lot of this, let's say, tech that fixing that is very hard to connect with an actual growth. And if you keep doing it only, will never allow you to see an actual impact at the end of the day, right? Very likely. So that is why it is important to also balance it out a little bit. In the deck of the SEO recommendations, you will see that I created this Google sheet where you can assign a value, try to assign values and weight it out based on effort and expected outcome, so you can prioritize recommendations accordingly. And then what I try to do here I initially send a top 10 actions to clients. At least a couple of those actions need to be about building, not only fixing or optimizing what already exists, but also building, because you don't want to wait for too long to start building, because this is what I meant, like, will allow you to take your results to the next stage, or to keep your competitiveness or achieve the competitiveness that you want versus your competitors.
Thanks for that. Let anyone else jump in with questions, but I also know we've taken up like an hour now, so if you have to go, let us know.
No problem at all.
Are you on? Hey, Aleyda. Thanks for speaking today. I just had a question more from a personal career perspective. I was wondering, as an SEO consultant in the EU market, how important it is to be like bilingual or multilingual?
You mean like in general, like the benefits in?
Yeah.
Well, I have to say that I started doing international SEO, and this is what like my point of entry, right? It opened for me as an SEO. It was an excellent way to personally, as a consultant, to get visibility, the opportunity to speak and share in the industry, and then to start working with bigger clients, international, global clients. More and more, though, my type of work has evolved to be like broader, and even if a client comes to me because they initially had certain challenges in certain markets. So to compete in a new market where they have just launched last year and they hadn't been able to compete well, or because they are releasing new versions in all of these markets and they want extra support to ensure that everything is correct when launching, things like that. Realistically, like after that starting point, and continue helping them doing ongoing SEO work, as the usual SEO strategy across of these markets. Because what I believe is truly important is that once that you have the understanding of where they stand in each one of these markets, which the players are, what they are competing against, what are the challenges, the specific characteristic and the search behavior of that market, can definitely be an add up for the usual SEO work that will be there, rather than trying to extrapolate what already works in their own usual market, right? So I think it's very positive in general that to have international SEO as an entry point for international for new markets, and then on one hand, definitely international SEO can be the best way to grow for many websites, right? Like the easiest potentially way to scale if they have the capacity to offer the products or services to international audiences too. So yes, I only see international SEO as something positive at all levels, right? In every different level, right? Both professionally as an entry point to consult and also for the clients themselves to grow in many different ways.
Ah, cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think we better wrap it up soon, Aleyda, because I know your time is precious, and I know we've gone a little bit over. But no, I just want to say thank you for coming on today. I really appreciate your time. Yeah, hopefully we can do an event in Sydney next year, and hopefully you can come down. Or got a lot of people keen for an event, so a lot of people are asking.
Of course, I will be more than happy. Just let me know with a little bit of time to coordinate well, and we'll be more than looking forward to be there again. It's a beautiful country and very friendly people, so it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, no, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. Yeah, well, hopefully you can shoot over the video for this, because I know that would be greatly appreciated. And I know some other people from our team that couldn't join, they want to watch it. So yeah, we'll share it to YouTube as well. We'll edit it and whatnot. So yeah, no, thank you for your time today.
Perfect, will do. Thank you very much, everybody. It was a pleasure to share.
you.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.